episode of Dimitra's Dishes. Today I'm going to teach you how to make pocket pitas, but this time I'm going to show you how to make them in the oven. And I'm also going to teach you a few do's and don'ts, more like hacks, on what not to do when you're making pocket pitas, because in the previous episode when I taught this recipe, I'm using the same exact measurements, same exact recipe. I got a lot of comments from people that were very successful with making them, and then some people said that half created the pocket, half didn't, and some of you even said that there weren't any pockets made, but they were super delicious. If there are no pockets made, then it's not going to be a pocket pita, it's going to be a flatbread, and this recipe is designed to be super fluffy and soft, whether there's a pocket or not. But if you did click on this recipe, you want there to be a pocket. This recipe is the best recipe that I've ever tested and tasted. And ever since I made it, ever since I created it, I have not bought a single piece of pita from outside because they just do not compare. Once you make it, you'll know what I mean. Let's begin by making the dough. All right, so we're going to begin with the starter ingredients, and I have some whole milk, a cup of whole milk. You want to make sure the milk and the water are at room temperature. A cup of water, 2 teaspoons of active dry yeast, 2 teaspoons of sugar, and a tablespoon of all-purpose flour. Just mix it all up, and after about 8 minutes, it should have activated. You'll know it's active when a cloud is formed on top. In the meantime, we're going to put together our dry ingredients. That's 4½ cups of all-purpose flour, or 648 grams. And I like to use an inexpensive kitchen scale for this. And we're going to add 2 teaspoons of salt to this. And I'm just going to whisk it all together. So go ahead and add 2 tablespoons of olive oil and the flour mixture. And knead it on low speed for about 13 minutes. Add a couple of tablespoons of oil in the mixing bowl and transfer the dough into the mixing bowl. Toss it around to coat in the oil. Cover it with plastic wrap and set it aside in the warmest part of your house until it doubles in volume, which should take about an hour or so. So one thing that you want to keep in mind is that you want this to rise properly. That is key in creating soft pitas. This is a very light dough, so set it aside, and it should rise between 45 minutes to an hour. If you use my dryer trick, it's probably going to take 45 minutes. If you set it aside and it's fairly comfortable in your house, it should take about an hour. Once it rises, punch it down, and then it's time to separate it into pieces. And we're going to cut it into 10 equal pieces. So I like to cut it in 2 equal pieces first, and then roll it out a little bit. And the only way they're going to be perfectly equal is if you weigh it. I'm just going to cut it into 5 pieces and cut the other one into 5 pieces. Doesn't have to be perfect. Go. And then I'm just going to roll each one into a ball. And if it's a little bit sticky, you can go ahead and add some flour. So if you roll it out using the palm of your hand to kind of cup it, it helps create that round ball shape. There we go. We're just going to continue doing that until they're all shaped. There we go. Now they're done. Now it's time to roll them out. So to roll them out, you're going to need plenty of flour. You're going to need some flour because if you don't do this and you don't have enough flour, they're going to stick to the board and then they're not going to create that pocket. Now I got a lot of messages about people making this for the first time and not getting that pocket, that you're making these for. You're trying to make pita pockets. They still taste delicious and soft and fluffy, but if they don't create that pocket, it's because you didn't roll them out with enough flour. So they're supposed to move around easily. Just like this. If you see how I'm rolling it with the rolling pin and I'm turning it a little bit and it doesn't get stuck to the board, then that pocket will form. And I'll do one the wrong way so that way you can understand why, how the wrong way is to do it, so that way you don't do it that way. So keep turning it and rolling out. And about 6 to 7 inches in diameter is good. And you want to get rid of some of that excess flour. Now, if you have some semolina flour, you could put it on your work surface or on your board. I have some baking trays that are lined with parchment paper, and I'm just going to transfer the pita rounds onto the baking tray so that way they can rest on there. So I like to take a ball of dough and dip it into some flour. I like to have some all-purpose flour ready to go in a bowl, and then I just spread it out a little bit with my fingers. You could also do this with a rolling pin. But once you make this a few times, you're going to get the hang of it actually. And then I put it onto my board, make sure there's plenty of all-purpose flour on there, and keep rolling and make sure that the dough is not sticking to the board, like we said. If you feel like it's sticking, then you're going to want to put a little bit more all-purpose flour on there. And you want to roll this out to about 6 to 7 inches in diameter. If you make it too thin, then they're going to be more dry instead of fluffy. That looks good. Now I'm going to transfer them to my baking tray. And I'm going to continue forming these until they're all formed. I'm going to save 2 for the end, and I'm going to show you how to do it the wrong way. So once you have 3 on a baking tray, that's pretty much how many are going to fit. Go ahead and cover them with a clean kitchen towel, and you're going to want to set them aside for 30 minutes. In the meantime, you can preheat your oven to as hot as it gets. Mine goes up to 525 degrees Fahrenheit. All right, so I already formed 8 the proper way. Now these last 2, I'm going to show you how to do it the wrong way. So that way, once you know what the wrong way looks like, it'll prevent you from doing that. So I'll just very lightly flour my board this time, not too much. And I can feel that the dough is a little sticky. This is a very tender dough, so it is going to be sticky. And now I'll show you the difference. Do you remember how when I was rolling before, it was really moving around very easily? You're going to see that because I don't have enough flour, first of all, it's going to start sticking to my rolling pin. You see that? You see how it's sticking? And then what's going to happen is it's going to start to stick to the board. You see how it's sticking to the board instead of moving around? You see it's being stretched out on the board. That is going to create more of a flatbread type pita, similar to like a naan or something like that. And it's still going to be tender. It's still going to be fluffy. It's still going to taste good, but it's more than likely actually, it's not going to form a pocket. You see what I mean? How it's being stretched instead of rolled out. So here they are. These 2 loners, they're going to be flatbread. They're not going to have a pita pocket. I'm going to set them aside, and when they're ready, we're going to pop them in the oven. And just so that way we can tell the difference, I covered this with a green towel, and the other 8, they're on 3 other trays. I cover them with white towels. So once you form all the pitas, you're going to set them aside and just in your house. You don't have to put them in these are not going to fit in the dryer, so I wouldn't even waste my time with that. Just set them aside in a warm part of your house or on your kitchen counter. You want them to be covered with clean kitchen towels so that way they don't form a crust on top, and you want to let them rest for 30 minutes. Now in the previous video, I did use semolina flour, and if you like that texture, most of you like it, and I did get a few comments where they didn't like that texture, so you can leave it out. I didn't use the semolina flour today just so I could demonstrate that it is not a must-have ingredient for this recipe. You could just cover them, set them aside, and what was I saying? I was saying about the semolina flour before I went off on a tangent. But you can just sprinkle a little bit of semolina flour onto your baking tray that's lined with parchment paper, and then put the pita breads on top, cover them with the kitchen towels, and set them aside for 30 minutes. You don't want them to double in size or anything like that. You just want them to get nice and puffy. This is also going to make sure that they bake up to be really nice and soft. You want to make sure that you preheat your oven to as high as it goes. Some oven temperatures can go all the way up to 550 degrees Fahrenheit. Mine goes up to 525. So the best time to do this is once you're rolling the pitas out, let your oven start warming up because you want it to be nice and hot. If you do have oven tiles or pizza stones, make sure that they're warming in the oven while it is warming up. You never want to put a cold pizza stone into a hot oven because that is what causes them to crack. So you don't want to do that. I don't have a pizza stone. I have a tile, just a big tile that I cut to fit into my oven. That will work. If you can put one on each level, that's fine too, but one will do the trick. Let the oven warm up, and once the 30 minutes pass, you're going to put the trays in. You could really put them in all together, one on each level. And then as soon as the pita starts to puff up and create that beautiful bubble, it's going to balloon up. It's going to take about 3 to 4 minutes or so, depending on the oven. Try not to open it too much. If your oven has a window and you can peek through and turn the light on, that is perfect because each time you open it, heat escapes and the temperature drops. So once they fully balloon up, then they're going to be ready. So they're going to look different than if you've already used the stovetop method, like in my previous recipe. So the stovetop method creates a beautiful golden color on the pita bread because it's directly on the pan, which is directly on the heat, and it causes them to become nice and golden. This method is going to keep them a little bit pale. They're still going to be delicious, so don't you worry about that. Let them balloon up completely. You don't have to flip them or anything like that. Take them out, let them cool completely, and then they will be ready to serve. A word of warning, because it has happened to me. If you have an oven that is not situated higher up in your kitchen and you have to open it up and your head is right in the line of fire, I will warn you to keep your face away from the heat once that oven opens up because it comes at you and you might even lose your eyelashes, especially if you wear mascara like me. Be careful. That is really the only word of caution that I have for you for today. So all of the pita bread is ready and all of them did create the pocket except for the last two that we made, which even those pretty much almost created the pocket, which goes to show you that the more you make them, the better they're going to turn out. But another thing that causes the pocket to not form is if there are little tears on the pita, like when you're making it, or if they're unevenly rolled out. So keep that in mind. But this is the thing. The more you make them, the better they're going to turn out. It's like anything else you do in life. Practice does make perfect. They all puffed up. They look amazing. They took 4 minutes in the oven to bake, pretty much exactly to the T. Like 4 minutes, that's how long they were ready in 4 minutes. Don't overcook them because you're probably not going to be able to finish all of these in one day. So you want them to keep fresh and nice and soft. So it is better that once they puff up, take them out, and you could always reheat them in a toaster oven. You could reheat them in the oven. If you have like a panini grill, like a George Foreman grill, that warms them up perfectly. They smell amazing. They're super soft, like we said. And if they have lots of flour on them, just lightly brush it off with a brush. Any kind of a brush will do. Let me break into one and show you just how good they look. Look at that. They form the pocket. They're super soft. These are going to be perfect for stuffing with your favorite things. Use them to stuff them with falafel, my gyro meat, which I'll put up in the card section. You do not want to miss that. It's absolutely delicious. Some veggies, even tuna fish. Use them, put them on the charcuterie board with your favorite veggies and dips and enjoy it. Now these store best in the refrigerator if you're going to use them throughout the week, but if you want them to last longer, once they're cooled completely, put them in freezer safe bags and store them in the freezer. They'll keep fresh for a month or two. They probably won't make it to the month mark because you're just going to want to eat these as often as possible. I like to eat these even with some butter and honey and a cup of tea, but that's me. I hope you guys enjoyed this recipe. If you want to learn how to make them on the stovetop, then you're going to want to click on this card right here, and I'll see you right over there. Bye, everyone.